Hi everyone, it's Rosanna. I've been away for a little longer than I intended, as usual, but this time for a really good reason. Because I've been trying to save the world. I'm joking, of course, but not really. It reminds me, what I think of is the cartoon when I was little. In the 90s, there was a cartoon called Animaniacs, and there were two little lab mice that were always trying. There was Pinky and the Brain, and the Brain was always trying to take over the world. So every night Pinky would say to the Brain, "What are we going to do tonight, Brain?" And Brain would say, "The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world." And I am in my trying to change the world era, I guess. And I know that that's not where all of you are. Some of you are in your disappointed with the world era. Some of you are in the I'm trying to block out what's going on in the world era. Some of you are in I'm just trying to survive era. But I'm looking at my daughter Nettie, who is 10 and a half, and very much going in her own direction out into the world more and more. And I'm not okay with the world that she's going to be headed into. And so I am trying to do what I can in my own way and using my own tools to see if I can make some things better for her and for all of our children. And I know that sounds really probably grandiose or unrealistic, and I don't mean it that way. I just have spent so much of this year hand-wringing and saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do every night? What are we going to do? What can we do? And finally, a few weeks ago, I was just like, I have to stop asking what I can do, what am I going to do, and just start doing things. And they may be the wrong things, and they may be things that don't work out, but I'm gonna try things. I'm gonna do things. And so I've shared with this community how I left Instagram last maybe February or January, just feeling like I needed to focus more on my actual physical, geographical community, and also on Nettie's schooling because she's homeschooled. But I just felt like I needed to ground myself in the place where I am, which is a place where I have been quite isolated for a lot of years, and more so all the time, until until the last few weeks, because finally, I guess, I got a fire lit under me somehow, and I thought, I'm just gonna, and I know how, because I have been following this this organizing group called, a group that is designed, it was started in 2016, and the intent was to save our democracy. And here again, that sounds quite grandiose, big ideas, but we have to have big ideas. We have to think big, because we're never gonna get up to whatever that ideal is. So we have to shoot high so that where we end up is high enough to be okay. So they have been around for 10 years or so, but I hadn't known about them, and I started kind of listening in on their weekly calls with leaders of Indivisible chapters around the country. And so I was thinking about it, and this summer they launched a program called 1 Million Rising. And one of the main suggestion that came out of that training that I took was that we start gathering as small communities, small groups of people in our communities. And that made a lot of sense to me. And so the kind of goal they set for everyone was think of 10 people in your pretty local community that you could invite to your home or to an intimate place to just talk about what we can do to try to save democracy, which I should put it in a less grand way, but maybe just to be some sort of resistance to what is happening, to find small things that we can do and work on in our communities to actually help our friends and neighbors, things that will chip away at what's being enacted by the current administration or regime. So it took me a little while to put together that list, and I'll admit it was a lot of family on it. But there were several people who, outside my family who I felt like I thought maybe we were like-minded, and so I invited several of those people too. And we got this group together and had a little potluck several weeks ago, and it was amazing. And it was so healing and affirming to come together as as like-minded friends, as people who, as safe people for each other, as people who were there to support and listen with compassion and understanding to one another. And so that gathering, I think, gave me the courage, to go forward with what I had been kind of encouraged in this training to do. And so we are meeting now with that small group every other week for right now, and I have some things I'm working on, ways to be visible in the community, and to bring messages of hope and support to different members of the community. And then this past week, after our meeting, we had been talking about, well, are we going to just meet kind of informally, and are we going to name ourselves? Are we going to affiliate with something? And of course, they know that that I've done things with Indivisible and I'm interested in it. And so that was one possibility, was that we just kind of fold into and form an Indivisible chapter here in our county, in our rural county, because there hadn't been, or I didn't think there had been. And it ended up that there had been one in 2016 and 17 and active through the first administration of our current leader. And anyway, that one had gone mostly inactive because the person who was the leader and who had formed it had moved away. And so I reached out to her this week and just asked and said, I'm interested in getting one set up, and what do you think? And should I just, reform this one, or how should we do it? And she was like, oh, I just was going to post last night that I think I should close this page. And I asked if anyone wanted to take over it. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting that I would, be thinking about it and contact you right at that moment. So we decided I would just kind of reform under a new name. And so the other thing that has gone along with this year of kind of, it's just been a year where I initially tried to step back, and then I tried to figure out, okay, how is my work going to look now without Instagram and kind of in this different climate, and with homeschooling taking more of my time. And then as I've gotten more interested in activism and just feeling really called to participate in that, I've lamented many times, I will say to myself, God, I love activist art. I love, the different ways that people are sharing messages of hope and resistance and solidarity. But I really couldn't see how my art could go that direction. I couldn't see how it could migrate that direction very easily. And a lot of you just know my spun cotton and cute little animals, and it would be hard to see that, how that could be used to kind of promote more activist messages. So I've been kind of sitting on that for months, trying to figure out what could I do. And when I first started being creative years ago, not many, but maybe 15 years ago, I did do some block printing. So I had thought about that because I've seen some people doing really amazing things with that. So I have pulled out my little kind of lino blocks and some rubber pads or whatever, rubber carving pads, and started making a few stamps this week to maybe be for little cards or calling cards or buttons. And then I've been doing these kind of ink lettered quotes because there's a Facebook page that I have to, and I don't know, I'm just used to doing Instagram and sharing my art, so I'm at this point doing the Facebook page the same way, which is using a decent amount of my own art and then kind of going from there with my captions and what I'm sharing or talking about. So I, I think I'm finding my feet with some kind of activist art, and it's interesting. It's interesting to be able to do something like that. I don't think I have perfected it in any way yet, but I'm trying things, and I'm kind of, some of the things I'm halfway happy with. I feel like they communicate what I want them to in a sort of humble and imperfect way, because I think that's important, that we all approach what we're doing with humility and an understanding that we're very imperfect, and everyone is imperfect, and we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to do things sometimes that were not the right thing, or say things that were not the right thing. But the important thing, I think, is that we just show up and, try to appreciate what other people are sharing, and share what's on our hearts as well, and just be authentic. And that's been interesting. Like, I went to a protest for the first time in my hometown 2 weeks ago, and that's kind of what I walked away feeling, is that this small group of people, in which I thought was going to feel quite uncomfortable, being on the main street of my hometown, where 70 to 80% of people don't share our views on what's happening. So I thought that was going to feel quite just uncomfortable. I don't want to say painful. I am not going through anything painful, just uncomfortable. I didn't want to do it. They were so welcoming, and so just themselves, and so happy to just have me there being myself. It was quite comfortable, and I didn't expect that at all. Like, I just didn't. And I made some friends, like, immediately, friends who I think I have a lot in, I might have a lot in common with. I have, thought for years, well, why can't I find any friends here who think like I do? And I think I've just not been, I've not been putting myself out there. And that's what we're just going to have to do, is get out and be with other people and see what can happen when we do that. So that's where I've been, and that's probably, I would have to say, that's probably where a lot of my time is going to go for the next few months at least. I just want to follow this and see where it goes. It's where I'm feeling called. I don't know how often I'll get here, and chances are that when I do get here, what I'm going to be sharing is most likely not going to be what I have traditionally shared, because that is not where I'm putting my time right now. I am really sincerely, I'm trying to make change in this world, and I'm doing that, from my little corner of it, and that's the only way we can make change. I know that is true, and I also know that I'm seeing how that is just actually changing my life. I've already made a couple of friends who I didn't have a few weeks ago, and I have a lot more motivation and purpose and hope in the morning. So that's what I'm doing. I hope some of you are maybe doing that too. And as always, I thank you so much for being here with me and for supporting me. Thank you for creating such a kind and compassionate, creative community here. And I do wish you all happy making.